We can do all things together through Jesus.
This evening we're going to be talking about letting go of the past with the help of the Lord and with the help of our brothers and sisters, dealing with the past. Now, that's really important because if we're in the present, and we are, then that means automatically that we have a past. And if we're human beings, and we are, then we have made mistakes. We've done some things that we're not particularly proud of. How are we going to deal with them? How are we going to allow the past to shape the present and influence the future? The fact of the matter is that the past is the past, and it's very important that we understand and that we accept that. We can't recapture time. We can't relive events. All of us would like to. There have been times when I've said things or done things, and I would love to be able to, stop the clock and play it back a few seconds and try it again. Can't be done. Now, we can do that, and we do that, like in a football game. The officials may make a call and then say, listen, we want you to put 3 seconds back on the clock. And in a game, you can recapture time, but in life, it doesn't work that way. And so what we have to do is learn to deal with what we've done, because what we've done is, in a sense, fixed in concrete and cannot be changed. Now, when it comes to letting go of the past, let me talk about a couple of things, touch on one that Steve is going to have you spend quite a bit of time talking about this evening, and then add a thought to that isn't really discussed in the material that he's given out, but I think is very relevant and very important. All of us have things in the past that we would wish weren't there, okay? Mistakes that we've made, things that we've said, things that we've done that we would like to do over. And we can't. But one of the things we can do is learn from those and then choose to, and this is so important, with the help of the Lord and our brethren, choose to press on. The Apostle Paul in Philippians chapter 3 and verse 13 will talk about how he has chosen to forget what lies behind and press forward to what lies ahead. I'm sure that he probably never could get the image of Stephen being stoned to death while he held the cloaks of those who were doing so out of his head. And he could either let that drag him down and stop him from doing what needed to be done, or he could put it where it needs to be in the past and press on. I'm sure with King David, how many times would David's mind flash back to that time when he first sees Bathsheba, and then he makes that series of horrible moral decisions that end up in creating this awful mess. He could just let that destroy him. He could let that stop him. Or, and I believe he did, he could put that behind him and he could press on. It's so important that we don't allow the past to destroy the present and take away from the possibilities of the future. There was a movie that came out back in the late 80s called The Missionary. It had a powerful, powerful image in it that I would like to share with you because I think it's very appropriate in this discussion. The movie centers around a fellow by the name of Mendoza. Mendoza is a rascal. He's operating in the 1740s in Argentina and Paraguay, and he kidnaps Indians from a tribe called the Guaran tribe and then sells them as slaves. That's how he makes a living. hard living, hard drinking man. He gets in a fight with his stepbrother over a woman, and he kills him. He feels tremendous guilt after he does this, because it's just, he never should have done it, and he knows it. And so he goes to a man, another major character in the film, Father Gabriel, who's a Jesuit missionary to this Guaran tribe. And Father Gabriel tells him, well, you need to do penance. Well, his penance becomes, Mendoza will take his armor and his sword, and he will chain his armor and his sword to his body, and he'll drag it everywhere he goes. So if he's in town, if he's walking down a trail, it doesn't make any difference. He is dragging his past behind him as a sign of his sorrow for what he's done. And the symbolism of that is something that I've never forgotten, because how many people do that with mistakes they've made? They chain themselves to those mistakes and they drag them everywhere they go. Now, in the film, ultimately, Mendoza will go with Father Gabriel to this tribe that he had kidnapped people from and made slaves from. And the people in the tribe will actually forgive Mendoza for what he's done, and symbolically they'll cut away the chains that tie him to that armor and to that sword. It has a beautiful ending, and there's some real themes in there of redemption and of forgiveness. But the bottom line is, we don't need to make the same mistake that so many people have made, and that is ruin the present and hinder the future by dragging the past around with us. Now, another angle to this that I want us to explore for just a second. I think it's equally dangerous to rest on the laurels of the past, or to have too unrealistic and rosy a view of the past. I think we all know people, he was a football quarterback in high school and all-state and this kind of thing. She was homecoming queen, and 20 years later, he's still reliving the glory days of being that high school football quarterback. She's still reliving the glory days of being the homecoming queen, and they really haven't moved on with their lives. And that's really kind of a tragedy when that happens. Or, I think equally challenging is, I look back now at the 50s and 60s, the era in which I grew up, with a great deal of nostalgia. I really feel like it was a kinder, gentler time in America in so many ways. At the same time, if I'm not real careful, I paint an unrealistic rosy glow around those good old days that really shouldn't be there. Because back during those good old days, I can also remember periodically hearing this horn blast when I was at school, and we would all have to get out and crawl under our desks because we were in the midst of the Cold War, and we weren't sure if the Russians were going to shoot atomic bombs at us. And so periodically, we were scared to death as we crawled under our desk and did these tests. I also remember when polio was still stalking the country and people were falling victim to it. And, there were so many things back then that aren't all that rosy and aren't all that good. And I think we need to be very careful not to get stuck in the past in that way. The fact of the matter is that this is 2020. Love it or not, it's 2020. With all the technological advances and wonderful advantages that we have now that we didn't have 50 or 60 years ago, and all the moral challenges and pitfalls and problems that go with it. But our challenge today is to live in today, to make the present the very best that we can, and do what we can to plan for the future. And a part of that is going to mean letting go of the past. So I pray that God will bless you in your discussion this evening of talking about the importance of letting go of the past. And I pray that from this discussion will come a lot of wise help for all of us and how to live our lives in the very best way when it comes to dealing with the past. God bless. Thank you.
We can do all things together.